Today in the studio, folks, I've got a real treat for you if you're into health, if you're into optimized health and nutrition. We have Gary Brecka. What's cracking?
Hey, man, what's going on?
Gary Brecka is with Streamline Health. You're also with 10X Health.
I am.
You're also with a bunch of other health things.
Yes.
Health. You're all about health.
Yeah, we just sold to the Cardone organization and formed a joint venture to touch a lot of lives.
That's big stuff.
That is big stuff.
Grant's a businessman, and Elaine is the queen of business.
Both very true statements.
Yeah, and so folks, while we talk to Gary today, I'm going to get one of his fancy deals. Now, this deal here is about ready to turn me, 20 years younger?
Yeah, rewind the aging clock. It's a Myers cocktail with a high-dose vitamin C drip. So it's going to detoxify, hydrate, boost your immune system.
And this is Madison.
That's Madison.
Travel with Madison?
I do. It's my daughter.
Oh, it is?
Yep.
Oh, I'll be dipped in buttermilk.
That's why we look alike. I don't just hire staff that looks like me. I make.
Yeah, but like, you ever have perverts when like she leaves? Oh God! They don't know it's your daughter.
Well, I actually forget to tell people she's my daughter, and I'll call her honey or sweetie or something, like, just without thinking. And the patient's like, "Wow, that's you're a little friendly with your staff there." I'm like, well, it's my daughter.
Dude, that's dangerous.
It is.
When she leaves the room, are you sticking that, Gary? Are you sticking that?
Yeah, that wouldn't go well.
There's pervs out there in the world. Mm-hmm. They're dirty dogs.
Most of them are not my patients, though. I don't have a lot of dirty dog pervs.
No?
As patients, no.
You test them?
No, I just don't get in proximity of them.
Okay, so what are we doing here? Let's explain to the audience exactly what this is.
So basically, what you're doing is you're using the saline.
Okay.
Which is everybody asks me, well, why did they use saline? Because most people think that salt is dehydrating. Mm-hmm. Actually, salt is very hydrating. The reason why they give you saline IVs in the emergency room when you're dehydrated is because they help contents in that fluid leave your blood and go into your tissues. Mm-hmm. So what we want is we want all these vitamins to get out of the blood and get into the tissue. So we put it in saline. And you got magnesium chloride, which roots out inflammation in every corner of your body. You got vitamin C, sorbic acid, which is like natural, almost like an antibiotic. It really scours the blood of free radicals. You got calcium gluconate. You got the full suite of B vitamins, and you got something called hydroxycobalamin, which is a form of B12, really readily available.
And that's a little bit of a slow drip, isn't it?
Yep, that's a slow drip.
How do we crank that up a smidge?
Madison, turn it up.
We want to.
Oh, we can roll.
We want to push.
Yeah.
That shit in there. Just like this.
There you go. Yeah. Boom. Oh, you're rolling.
Is that fast?
Might be a little dehydrated there, bud.
Raise that up, it'd go far faster, wouldn't it? That's what I'm talking about right there. Now, IVs directly into the bloodstream.
Yes.
First of all, let's go back.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know all this stuff?
Well, interestingly, I didn't get my start in the wellness space. I actually got my start in the mortality space. I was a mortality expert.
Hey, I can taste some shit right now.
Yeah, that's good. That's B12 is a metal. So you're tasting the metallic. You have a metallic taste in your tongue?
Yeah.
That's really good. It's a good sign.
Are there any veins popping in my head?
You're going to be pregnant
by the time
that's done running.
Taste something.
Yeah. No, you're tasting a metal. Yep. B12 is a metal. So
Almost.
it actually, your tongue is fraught with blood vessels. So B12 shows up in the blood vessels. It actually hits your taste buds from the inside out. So that's a good sign that it's absorbed.
All right, so the reason I'm doing it live on the podcast is because I wanted to be able to tell you whether this shit works or not live. Because, a lot of these guys come on, people will call me afterwards, hey, does this shit work? I don't know. Like I did one with these Walmart guys and, the drop shippers. And
right.
Does this work? It's like, I don't know yet. Like, you got to give me some time, to get it set up. Mm-hmm. So I figured, you know what? Let's just put this on while we're doing it.
That was smart.
I can taste vitamins.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
It's a really good sign. It means that's no longer in your blood and it's left your tissues. It's in your taste buds.
And not only that, earlier you took my blood and you took a swab. What was the blood for?
So the blood is so that we can look at your hormone balance, your nutrient deficiencies, and how well you're controlling blood sugar. Because, my previous life, I was a mortality expert. And so I was tasked.
Why? Insurance?
Well,
Were you an actuarian?
No, it's different than an actuarial. An actuary puts you on an actuarial curve, right? You're on one, I'm on one. Everybody listening to this podcast is on an actuarial curve. If you're a 29-year-old female, you have a life expectancy of X years, right? So that's an actuarial curve. But what the insurance company wants to know before they bind millions of dollars in risk on your life, or guarantee an annuity, or pay you for a reverse mortgage, or any number of other financial services instruments, is they want to know specifically how many more months does Brad Lee or does this person have left on Earth. And so I was tasked with predicting mortality to the month. And the way that we did it was we looked for the absence of optimal health. You see, every human being leaves this earth the same way. We all die of something called hypoxia, which is lack of oxygen to the brain. That's the definition of death. So if we know that that's how we leave this earth, then if we stop thinking about hypoxia as an event, like a heart attack or a gunshot wound or a stroke or a bus, and we start thinking of it as a slope, how quickly am I becoming so hypoxic that I'm no longer going to occupy this planet? Or how slowly? And that is the definition of optimal health.
Lack of oxygen to the cellular level or to the brain?
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, I say this all the time. If you ever heard me speak or listen to another podcast, I say if I was to boil 22 years of clinical research and mortality down to a single sentence, it would be this. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. That is the most important statement you'll hear for the balance of your lifetime.
I forget this name.
On health.
Otto Warburg, maybe? I don't know. Who? No. 1930s. A guy by the name of Otto something or another won a Nobel Prize for basically identifying the cause of cancer, which was the lack of oxygen.
Hypoxia.
At the cellular level. And people don't understand. And by the way, hydration is a big
no doubt
killer.
Yep.
But people don't understand that the lack of oxygen at the cellular level causes death and cancer and problems. And I should introduce you to a company here. It's called Cocoon. It's basically you lay in this water and it's liquid oxygen. And it gets the oxygen to the cellular level.
Oh, yeah.
A doctor's daughter had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. They said, go get your affairs in order. You got about 3 months to live. She flew to her dad, and who lives in Hungary, who is a specialist in cancer oncology. He put her in this water, and she's alive today.
The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease.
No pancreatic cancer, obviously not dead. And these spas that she has called Cocoon water, and the reason they call it Cocoon water, can you remember that movie Cocoon, where the old man jumped in the bath with the aliens in it?
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why they call it that. But that's where I learned that from. His
Very
name,
true.
Yeah, his name's Dr. Lyons, but he said, we've known, medicine's known this since 1930s. So how do you get oxygen to the cellular level?
Well, knowing that oxygen, the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease, we have to get more oxygen into the body, and then we have to improve how the body uses oxygen, which is one of the things we look at on a blood panel. So a lot of times a physician will look at a blood panel, a special area called the CBC, the complete blood count. And if things are in the normal range, then they say everything's fine. Come back and see me in 6 months or a year.
And you guys will see that from my blood?
Oh, we'll see it in your blood.
Now, I read people's micro expressions pretty well. And when she was taking my blood, I said, what?
Yeah, you sensed that we were looking at each other.
And you all went, because you guys real quick went.
Yeah, we did a little scan.
Your eyes all went like, hey, what was that?
Yeah, your hematocrit, your blood viscosity was high.
It was a little thick.
Yeah.
So here in a minute, or whenever that's done, we're going to drop it. And then take some blood out.
Put the same amount of fluid in, and you take the same amount of blood out, because when people donate blood, they think that they get nauseous or lightheaded from the loss of blood. That's not true. They get lightheaded from the loss of pressure. So if you keep the pressure the same by putting the same amount of fluid in that you take out, then you keep the pressure the same. Yeah. Our system's fixed. If you pull blood out, pressure drops and people get lightheaded.
Interesting.
So you're not going to get lightheaded at all. In fact, you're going to feel great.
Well, your blood pressure raises when you get IVs anyway, don't they?
Slightly, because you're increasing the pressure.
Yeah, you're putting more liquid in there.
Right. So you just temporarily increase the pressure. I was telling you that if you look at the incidence of cardiovascular disease between men and women, you'll see that men lead women by a huge margin until women stop menstruating. And then there's a parabolic spike, and they approximate men in the incidence of cardiovascular disease. And the reason for that is because they stop turning their blood over. So one of the simplest things that you can do to achieve optimal health and optimal blood status is to donate blood on a regular basis.
See, most people wouldn't know that. So that's one of those tricks. All you have to do is just donate blood every what?
Great biohacking. It's free.
How often?
Minimum every 6 months, but I prefer you do it every 3 to 6 months.
So every 3 months, go in, give some blood. It helps people live,
Saves,
especially if you've got a rare blood type too.
saves 3 lives. Yep.
Saves
3 lives.
I doubt, O positive, which is me, is anything rare. But as you all know, I'm a blessed individual. Would someone be would someone be lucky to get my blood work back?
No question. I mean, I already looking at your blood, I can tell that I've got patients that would kill to have your blood, because when you look at the oil on the top of the blood, most of the time you'll see that it's turbid, has something called cytokines, and it's got it's just turbid. It looks like it's milky. When it's clear, like really pure olive oil, that's when your triglycerides, your blood fats are nice and low. And people are really, really concerned about cholesterol. I told people stop worrying so much about cholesterol, worry about blood fat. You see, it's not the level of cholesterol that poses a risk. It's the size of the cholesterol molecule.
So I've got a 43 resting heart rate. People are like, dude, that's incredible.
That's incredible.
Now
that's Lance Armstrong territory.
Well, now I find out my triglycerides are almost non-existent, right? I had olive oil.
Things are heading the right way, man, in your case.
But like, what's the cause of this?
Well, optimal health is, partially in your genetics. So one of the things that I really encourage people to do is get a genetic test and look at the 5 major actionable genes in the human body. See, one of the most...
Well, we did that too. That's the swab.
Yeah, we did a cheek swab.
I want to get there too.
And
everyone should do that.
Everyone should do that, because you do it once in your life and then people are supplementing just for the sake of supplementing right now. They have no idea why they're taking curcumin or turmeric or saw palmetto or chamomile.
Or worse, they're not taking anything.
Or they're not taking anything.
Or they're taking a Fred Flintstone vitamin.
Oh,
which
boy,
does
Cyanocobalamin. Don't get me started on that.
Yeah.
Cyanide-based B12.
Wow.
Cyanide-based B12. Just marinate on that for a second.
That is.
We make vitamins in this country out of hydrogen cyanide. The same thing we make chemical weapons from, we make vitamins from.
Yeah, if we go down that rabbit hole, I think this country is run by Big Pharma.
Yeah,
they don't want you healthy.
Definitely don't want to go down that rabbit hole.
I don't think they want you healthy.
But I will tell you, your listeners that are listening right now, spin your bottles of supplements around, look for that word cyanocobalamin, and if that's the form of B12 that's in your supplement, throw it right in the trash.
Cyanocobalamin.
Cyanocobalamin stands for cyanide.
Now, most people don't know, but what that'll do is increase the blood flow to the erector pili.
I'm learning something new today. I didn't know we had an erector pili.
Oh, you definitely do. We all do. Okay, and sometimes when our erector pili is stimulated, usually with the polyunsaturated hydrocarbons that flow through the medulla oblongata, base of the brain, that will make your hair stand on end, and that is your erector pili.
Okay.
And then most people will flex their orbicularis oris, so their orbicularis oculi, because they're like, whoa, it's just an excitement.
Yeah.
It's just being startled or excited.
Yeah. Or the levator labii superioris equinasi. That's my favorite muscle in the face.
That's right. Most people don't know that I was going to be a doctor.
Oh.
Yes.
All right.
I studied it. I know every bone in the human body.
Every bone?
Yeah. Well, I used to.
What's the only bone in the human body not connected to another bone?
I would say, coccyx. Well, what do you mean? They're all connected except for
except for one. There's only one bone that's not connected to another
bone.
A bone.
An actual bone.
An actual bone.
Is it in your ear?
It is not in your ear. There's 3 bones in your ear. Hammer,
anvil, hammer, and stirrup.
Yeah.
You can quiz me. You can quiz me. And what?
Hammer, anvil, and stapes. They were Malleus incus and stapes is the technical name, but hammer, anvil, and stirrup is good.
Well, I mean, but all bones are connected to something.
Except one.
Except one?
Except one bone is not connected to another bone.
Well,
there's one bone
in your
body.
You know it ain't the leg bone because that's connected to the hip bone.
Femur is connected to the pelvis, yes.
Yeah. What bone is that?
The hyoid bone. It's
the hyoid
floats
in the
your
neck.
neck. Yep. It's a hyoid bone.
So what's it connected to?
It's not connected to another bone. It's free floating.
What's it connected to?
It's just a stabilizer bone. It's actually just suspended in soft tissue. Gives stability to your throat.
If I punch you in the hiatus, what's it called?
Hyoid.
Hyoid.
A hiatus.
Could I break your hyoid by cracking you in the neck?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Is that what kills people?
Yes.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I just picked up a new piece of trivia.
Yep.
I really do know that 206 human bones in the body.
Wow.
Didn't know. I wouldn't have guessed the hyoid. I forgot that one. But when I was in, believe it or not, like I think it was 5th grade, they gave us a skeletal and a muscular map, and we had to write down all the bones in the human body, all 206 of them.
Wow.
And forever, I've remembered them.
That's great.
It's the craziest thing. And muscles.
Yeah.
So like people now are like, I broke my kneecap. Well, that's the patella, son.
Yeah.
I broke my collarbone. That's the clavicle, my friend.
Yes.
So I still remember this shit, but that's why I wanted to drop some knowledge, impress people with my polyunsaturated hydrocarbons. and there is a medulla oblongata. That's the base of the brain.
There is a medulla oblongata. I'm just not aware of the other connections you talked about. But there is definitely
gibberish. It's medical gibberish.
Yeah.
But the erector pili is the muscle that makes your hair stand up. And the orbicularis oris, that's the mouth muscle.
Yep.
And oculi, that's your eye muscle.
Yep.
Make you smile, make you
the
frown.
frontalis and the master
and then what about your sternocleidomastoid?
Sternocleidomastoid, yep.
You know what that is?
Yeah, it goes from the mastoid process to your sternum.
That's right.
Yeah, to the medial part of the clavicle, above the sternum.
See, now this is deep shit.
I know. I think we're probably losing half the listeners right now. You know what the longest muscle in the human body is?
Well, what is?
You know what the longest muscle in the human body is?
On mine, I do. You know the largest organ in the human body? The skin.
Yeah, very true.
Most people don't know that.
And most people
skin is an organ.
Yes. And you can use the skin to biohack your body. In fact, one of my favorite biohacking tricks is to turn the skin into a primary route of waste elimination. And you can do 3 days of liver detoxification in 20 minutes in a dry sauna or an infrared sauna. You can do the same thing in very cold temperatures, ice bathing.
By the way, if you guys want to follow Gary, go to Instagram is your main one.
Yes.
At Gary Brecka, Brecka, at Gary Brecka, right?
Right.
And DM him if you want to get some information from him regarding your health, because you basically handle all the celebs and a lot of the athletes and a lot of the big wigs. Grant Cardone, everyone said, well, he got ripped and looking great for his age. He's on your deal, so much so that he basically invested with you. He wants to.
More than invested. He bought our company.
Oh, he did?
He bought our company. And
for how much?
A lot. Life-changing for me. I mean, more money than I ever thought I'd have.
Yeah, I'll be damned. Did he tend to earlier? Did he mention like who helped him start that whole 10X thing?
I think your name came up in very fond
I don't know
circles.
if Ken knows that or not.
Yeah, the genesis of 10X.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
he speaks highly of you.
But Grant's a good businessman, dude, so you're lucky to have him on board because, dude, you can't fail with Grant Cardone on board.
So blessed.
I don't think I've ever seen him fail anything except backgammon. He got so pissed I had to lose to him.
Oh, I've lost many a backgammon game to that man, and it's frustrating.
He loves backgammon. Backgammon's fun with that cube. If
No,
you don't play with that
not,
cube, it's boring.
Oh, he was the one that taught me about that cube. He said it changes the whole game. He won't play without it.
No.
I swear he controls the dice with his mind, because sometimes there'll be a specific combination that he has to have where he's going to lose the game, and bang, he rolls that, and it's so frustrating.
Yeah, it is.
Like it drops out of the sky.
He gets lucky.
I'm launching an investigation.
He's a lucky devil as well. But you got him looking young. You got him looking sharp. He's in the best shape he's ever been in, best feeling. So, folks, if you guys are interested in doing this, like the big wigs, the celebs out there, I can't name them all. Can I name any?
I'd rather you not, because I don't know which ones are public about it and which ones aren't. I mean, I can talk about some that are public, like rap artists like French Montana.
Yeah, but you do all kinds of things. IV drips, just all kinds of things for them. But people listening, they can get their blood work through you. And then the swab. Why is that one so important?
I think the cheek swab is the most important thing that you'll do in your adult lifetime, or for your children, because we assume that when we put things into the human body that everybody uses raw materials the same way, and that's absolutely not true. Like, just take a simple thing like folic acid, right? It's the most prevalent nutrient in the human diet. Okay, it's required to be sprayed on all white flour, white rice, white bread, white pasta, is all sprayed with folic acid. Well, 44% of the population has a gene mutation that does not allow them to process folic acid. So it's useless in 44% of the population. In fact, it's a leading cause of postpartum depression in pregnant females. What they do is they're told by their OBGYN when they get pregnant to take folic acid, because they're told that'll avoid neural tube defects. What happens is 44% of women can't methylate that folic acid. So not only does it not prevent neural tube defects, it leads to depression. And then when the pregnancy ends, they stop taking the prenatal vitamin and they blame the depression on the pregnancy instead of blaming it on the vitamin. So if we were to understand what each human processes and what they don't, then we could supplement them just for the deficiency that their body has.
How many people out there are like way worse off than they can imagine?
Well, I mean, most people are ticking time bombs with what's called modifiable risk factors. You know, in the prediction of death, in the mortality business, the one thing that struck us over and over and over and over again, and sadly, we were not allowed to have any contact with the patients and the medical records we were reading, the life expectancies we were predicting. We weren't allowed to contact the patient. But what we saw over and over and over again were what's called modifiable risk factors. The leading cause of not only death, but poor lifespan, not just poor health span, not just poor lifespan, were modifiable risk factors. Simple things like low red blood cell count, clinical deficiencies in vitamin D3. People are being treated for rheumatoid arthritis right now all over this country that do not have rheumatoid arthritis. They have a simple deficiency in vitamin D3. They're being treated for depression and anxiety and ADD, ADHD, OCD, and all these supposed psychiatric illnesses that are actually none of those illnesses. They're simple deficiencies in raw material. Like, for example, I've had my whole life until recently severe ADHD. And anybody that knows me would be like, yes, he's super ADHD, right? Squirrel. My
Do you know what
fiance,
a kid with ADHD has for breakfast? I don't know. You want to ride bikes?
Well, we'll take a kid with ADHD. Let's talk about a child with ADHD.
Well, they said I was that.
Yeah. So attention deficit disorder is not really attention deficit disorder. It's attention overload disorder. What they have is an issue with quieting the mind. Their body's deficient in certain amino acids and raw materials, so their mind doesn't degrade thought. So it allows too many thoughts to come into the mind and compete for attention. So it's actually not an attention deficit disorder. It's an attention overload disorder.
I thought it was an attention boredom disorder, meaning, in other words, I could pay attention if I wanted to. But
correct.
If you were boring
That's
me,
an excellent point, because you don't have attention deficit disorder if you can pay attention, right? So by definition, it's off. And the reason for that is, you think about kids, 44% of the population that has this gene mutation means that 44% of kids have it, which means 44% of children cannot methylate folic acid. And what do they have for breakfast? Cereal, which is all fortified or enriched with folic acid. By the way, that's what those terms mean. Fortified or enriched is the government's way of fancifying spraying it with a chemical, right? They want to make it sound like it's a good thing because the cereal is fortified. Cereal is enriched. Well, it's sprayed with folic acid. It's what the ingredients should say. You put that much folic acid into a child that cannot methylate folic acid, and it's a behavioral disaster waiting to happen. I mean, folic acid is like cocaine for 6-year-olds. It just makes their mind race, ricochet off the wall. And we feed these kids breakfast cereal and Pop-Tarts and white flour and white bread before they go off to school, and that's why it's a full contact sport to get them into the car.
Now, when I was young, they tried to give me Ritalin or whatever it was called. My parents said pound sand ain't happening, so they never gave me anything. But what's crazy is the second grade teacher let me smoke weed.
Smoke weed while
no
second grade.
They let me drink coffee in second grade.
No doubt. And
coffee would put me to sleep, and they'd let me sleep in the class so I did not mess with the other kids.
Yes.
Because I was, they said hyperactive, and ADHD, but it wasn't that. You know what it turned out to be? They moved me up a grade, and then I started paying attention. Like, it was almost like, according to them.
You're being challenged.
Well, yeah, like before it was like too easy for me. And what's weird is I was born in 1969. Well, you know how sometimes when the year changes because it's January, you accidentally write the year before? Well, they made a birth certificate that said 68. This was back when they hand wrote. There was nothing digital. So they hand wrote January 27th, 1968, when it was actually 69. The year had changed, but nurse wrote 68. So I had a birth certificate that said I was 1 year old the day I was born. Wow. So, and we got that copy. I still have it. So my parents used that birth certificate to put me in school when I was 5. So I was smaller, less mature, and I think that had something to do with it. And turns out, no, it was just I was super smart, I guess, and second grade.
I mean,
shit
people with
wasn't.
ADHD have ADD, ADHD. They're told they have those kinds of disorders. Are usually what we call consummate overachievers. They develop what's called consummate overachiever profile. They set very, very high standards for themselves, even as children, right? And they judge the success or lack thereof of their day by how many tasks they get done on a task list that they set for themselves. They drive themselves. They're internally driven.
You guys keeping an eye on this so I don't get no air bubbles.
Oh no, it won't go. It'll just stop. I see
Now,
you getting
what
nervous.
am I supposed
over
to
there.
feel like? Because I kind of feel, but
See?
not really. Kind of though.
Well, the reason why you feel is because those B vitamins are solving
I kind of like
methylation.
the way my mouth tastes.
Yeah, that's B12. B12.
I like it. I almost feel high a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, can we just keep that
You're
going?
high on your own supply. Yeah.
What if someone did this every single day?
You wouldn't want to do it every single day because that's going to last more than 48 hours. So you're just piling vitamins on top of vitamins for the sake of doing it.
All right.
But once a week for sure.
Okay, so let's get to the swab though.
Mm-hmm.
You do that swab, which you guys did for me.
Yep.
That swab's going to tell you my markers.
Yes.
And then what's those markers going to do? Save my life?
Well, they're very well could save your life. So
Because what might you see?
Well, I might see that you don't methylate certain nutrients, and you think, for example, that you have people that have anxiety or suffer from depression or addiction. If you look at these disorders, very often they are deficiencies in raw materials. They're not actually the presence of a disease. They're the absence of a raw material in the human body.
Like D3?
Like D3, like B vitamins,
Iron.
like iron, like L-methionine, magnesium, zinc, very important light metals.
K2.
Yep, K2. You need to put K2 in with vitamin D3 to help calcium get into the bone. So, vitamin D3, that's just by far and away the single most important nutrient in the human body. It's the only vitamin the human being makes. More than 85% of the population is clinically deficient. It's the second leading cause of morbidity in COVID, clinical deficiency in vitamin D3. It's a
When you say clinical, that means extreme?
It means extreme, below 30.
Yeah,
less than 30 nanograms.
Because I went to this place and they took my blood and the guy said, you take D3? I said, yeah. He goes, yeah, because your levels are perfect and everybody's usually, I was going to try to sell it to you.
Yeah, you want it between 60 and 80. Yeah.
And I said, no, I take D3 on every single day. And he goes, smart.
It's linked to a lower incidence of breast cancer in females. So it's all.
But maybe that's why my blood looks so damn good.
That's partially why it looks so good, for sure. I mean, it's sunlight. The human beings only make a single vitamin. There's hundreds of vitamins in your bloodstream right now. You're only capable of making one.
Do you know
vitamin D3?
Do you know the sun gives out D3? Do you know the number one absorber of D3 from the sun?
Skin.
What part? There's one part that's
one part of the skin?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, your human body, one part.
What part?
Scrotum.
I actually did have someone at dinner the other night tell me that he tans his the back door. I'm like, first of all, that's a vision that I can't seem to get out of my mind. And at what point in your life did you figure that out?
Well,
it's one thing to be naked in the sun, nude sunbathing, but how do you figure out how to get it, how to get the back door?
I don't know how someone could figure it out unless they're measuring it, but it is a fact.
I'm gonna have to look that one up. I'm gonna take your word for it, but
it's.
Yeah, he said he raised his testosterone by tanning the backside.
The body is an amazing thing. Human beings are amazing creatures. Like, again, it blows my mind that you can cut your skin and the body says, like, the body knows that you cut it, first of all.
Yeah.
And then it sends platelets to solve the problem.
Yep.
Automatically, without you thinking of anything. It just happens. Like, that's just crazy to me. And then, like, you can see, you can hear, you can taste. That shit's crazy to me.
Yep.
And then when you look at your finger and you can move it just if you want to, like, that shit's crazy. Like, what is happening
37 trillion cells in your body. Every day you replace about 300 billion cells in your body, turn over 300 billion cells. So in 100 days from now, you will literally be a completely different human being. At a cellular level, none of the cells in your body now will be with you then. So they'll all turn over. So that's why I tell people, if you get this genetic test, for example, and you look at these 5 biomarkers, these 5 methylation markers, and you find out exactly what your body is processing and what it's not, you're on your way to a level of optimal health that you never thought possible. I mean,
so again, and guys, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're running a business, if you're working long hours, more energy, better sleep, better.
I'll tell you the top 5 things that I see that methylation fixes is gut issues. About 80% of the patients that come into our clinic that think they have allergies don't have allergies at all. They have an issue with intestinal motility, which is why they get a colonoscopy, it's normal. They get an endoscopy, it's normal. They do a stool sample, it's normal. They start taking probiotics, it doesn't help. They change their diet, it doesn't help. They eat the same thing Monday and have no reaction. They eat the exact same thing on Tuesday and they blow up like a tick. Gas, bloating, diarrhea, constipation, cramping, all that kind of stuff. And it drives them crazy because they're trying to find an allergy. It has nothing to do with what you're eating. It has to do with the pace of the gut, how quickly things are moving down that conveyor belt. Because the gut's very orderly, and it has to go in order. It has to go from one bacteria to another, to another, to another, and then out. If you accelerate that process, you find that you have chronic gut issues. And most people that have chronic issues with their gut have also suffered from anxiety their entire lifetime. They're carried on the same gene. And they're being told that they have generalized anxiety or generalized depression. They've been on depression medication on and off throughout their lifetime, and they actually don't have depression or anxiety. They've got a deficiency in methylation.
Maybe their microbiome is messed up.
You blame it on the microbiome, but then you fix the microbiome and it doesn't fix it. And the issue is not the microbiome very often, it's the pace of the gut. Think about it. Your gut's 30 feet long, right? As you approximate the stomach, it's very acidic. As you approximate the rectum, it's very basic. If I accelerate...
Have you ever approximated your rectum?
As a matter of fact, I haven't approximated my rectum, but I'm gonna point my rectum at the sun and see if it raises my testosterone, though, after this podcast.
Well, that's not where the scrotum is.
Well, I know, but I think if I'm going to expose the rectum, I can also expose the scrotum. It's sort of in the same neighborhood, right? Yeah. They just got a little highway there, the taint.
You know, but you only want to do that if you make sure that you don't have a broken flutter valve.
I'm learning a lot of new anatomy.
You don't want a bad flutter valve. But in all kidding, so they take this swab that'll show these markers, and then they can take different nutrients, different things that they're deficient, and then correct those things.
Yeah, you take what's called the methylated form of
solve anxiety.
Solve anxiety. Most people that have anxiety have 3 characteristics. They've had it on and off their entire lifetime.
I don't like that anxiety shit. Thank God I've never had it. But let me tell you something. One day I woke up, I felt anxious. I felt like you ever rob a bank?
I haven't, but
well, if you ever robbed a bank and there's cops behind you and you fucking know that they know, that gut feeling, is that anxiety?
That's anxiety.
Yeah. So the other day I woke up and out of the blue, I just felt like that for about 30 minutes. It was crazy. And I'm thinking it's maybe because I'm getting older.
It's a fear of something happening in the future.
But I've never had it. And that's what I felt like. And I thought, this is bullshit. So I don't remember. Probably something. I don't know. But I didn't like it. So if there's people that live with anxiety, dude, they need to get a mouth swab.
And if you talk to people that have anxiety and you ask them, can you point to the specific trigger that causes it? Very often they'll say no. Right there, you know it's coming from your physiology. It's not coming from the outside world because you woke up in the morning feeling anxious.
I always thought it was mental.
It's not a mental. It's a mental state, but it's not coming from your mental. It's not coming from the mental being. It's coming from your physiology. You're physiologically deficient in certain nutrients. You can't lower an inflammatory compound called homocysteine. And when you can't do that, you have anxiety. In fact, most people that have anxiety have one parent that has hypertension, and they have another parent that has hypothyroid. Because that same gene that you inherit that doesn't allow you to methylate the nutrients that don't give you anxiety also leads to hypertension, leads to hypothyroid. So these things run in families, but it's not the disease that's genetic. It's the inability to convert certain nutrients. You know, you think about, I always use the example that we take crude oil out of the ground, right? But you can't put crude oil directly into your gas tank, right? The car doesn't understand crude oil. It has to be refined into gasoline. The human body goes through that same process. You put raw materials into the human body. It doesn't use them in the form you take them in. Nothing that you put into the human body gets used in the format that you put it in.
So if people are listening, they want to do one of those mouth swabs and get a hold of you, get some blood work done and get you to dial them in like you do all the athletes and celebs and whatnots. Even bloodlet. Are we going to bloodlet before or after?
Yeah, right. As soon as that IV's done, she's going to put that IV below the level of the heart.
So you're just going to lower it then it's going to fill with blood?
Yes.
I don't know if I like that idea. As soon as I said fill with blood, my head got light.
That's your flutter valve.
So you're going to lower that, and it's going to start bleeding?
I say the same thing to every patient. Don't look down, and then the first thing they do is look down.
Well, what if it sucks it all right back out? How do you know?
Yeah, that fluid is all throughout your body right now. It's all throughout your body.
No, I know, but if we put in the vitamins, and then it sucks the vitamins out,
a very, very small percentage of those going to come out.
Vitamins.
No.
You're going to stick it in, then you're going to suck it right back out.
We can use it. Put it in the next guy.
I was going to say,
great business
you're going to go
plan.
sell that. Like, you're going to show look at the triglycerides in this blood, bro.
Oh, yeah. I'm putting
your
blood on eBay.
When you donate blood, sometimes I've seen people sell blood, plasma.
Ooh.
Yeah, like when my brothers would go sell plasma, they'd pay them.
Oh, yeah.
And
valuable stuff.
I went to do it once, I think, but never again. But like my brother would sell plasma as often as they'd let him.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That plasma is really
now. I say if you ever want a free test to see if there's something wrong with you, just go offer to donate blood, because when you walk in there, they won't take your blood if you got shit wrong with you, will they?
That's right. Yeah, they won't take your blood if you have a really elevated hematocrit, which is your blood viscosity, if it's really thick.
Are they checking you for COVID? They're checking you for AIDS. They're checking you for something, right?
Not before you donate blood. They'll check you for COVID before you donate blood. They'll check your hematocrit, but they don't run the AIDS test and all those other viral pathogen tests until the blood goes back to the lab. Then they run it against everything. They run a huge panel on that stuff.
But they won't take you again, would they?
No.
So if you got something wrong with you, dude, they won't let you do that.
Right. Yeah, it's a great way. It's free, and it's
hopefully,
really, really good for you.
I don't have a thumb that grows out of my forehead here in a second.
Yeah.
Or any kind of...
yeah.
Yee, here we go, dirty dogs. Well, listen, I tell everybody that's listening right now, the Myers cocktail and everything felt, almost like I'm drunk a little.
Yeah, Myers cocktails are great.
But I would say, to replenish the hydration and everything from a cellular level, I think it's highly recommended. Now, what about brain fog?
Brain fog's the same thing. Most people that have brain fog also have poor sleep patterns, right? Because it's an inability to quiet the mind. So when their environment quiets, their mind wakes up. So they have one of two types of sleep patterns. They either go to bed tired and have a hard time falling asleep because their mind keeps them awake, or they fall asleep and they have a hard time staying asleep because their mind wakes them up. And if you ask them the kind of thing they're thinking about the most strange, just innocuous thoughts, nothing that should be keeping them up at night. Like, did I get everything on my grocery list? Does my belt match my shoes? Did I return that email today? I forgot to do that Instagram post. Little like nagging things like that, because they lack an amino acid called L-methionine, which helps to quiet the mind. Right? So the same way that we create thought, we actually degrade thought. We dismantle thought the same way we create it. So if you are good at creating thoughts, but you're not good at dismantling them, degrading thoughts, then your brain gets clouded and you stay awake. Kids with ADHD also tend to be night owls, because that gene that doesn't allow them to methylate folic acid also doesn't allow them to quiet their mind. And these are the kind of kids that when they're really young, they end up in mom and dad's bed by the morning because they'll wake up at night. And when a kid wakes up at night and their mind starts running, it starts thinking about all the things that make them scared, right? So alligators under the bed, there's a shark in the closet, they hear a little noise, and then they get up and pitter-patter right in the mom's bedroom. Classic sign of methylation.
If somebody wants a good night's sleep, can they take some sort of supplement to get that?
So if you want a really good night's sleep, have your blood work done and make sure that your blood transports oxygen well. I ask tons of physicians and all kinds of people, why is it that people that are the most exhausted sleep the worst? And very few people can answer that question. And the reason is because of low blood oxygen. When you're low on energy, what you're really low on is you're low on oxygen. So if you said, Gary, I had a lot of energy today, physiologically what you're saying is I had a lot of oxygen in my blood today. So if we know oxygen equals energy, then if we get more oxygen into the blood, if we raise our red blood cell count, raise hemoglobin, transport oxygen well, we'll not only have more energy, but think about what happens when you sleep, right? Your respiration rate starts to drop. And as your respiration rate gets really, really, really low, if you're poorly transporting oxygen, when your blood oxygen gets too low, your brain panics and it wakes you up. So how does it wake you up? It pulses cortisol. So people that are tired during the day,
see what I mean? Like, that's amazing
they
shit.
look like
right
a
there,
bouncing rubber ball going down.
Yeah, but that's a machine, like an automated thing. Like, hey, this dude needs some oxygen. Boop. Let me just give him a little cortisol, wake his ass up.
Yeah, that's what the brain does. Now, it doesn't wake you up till you're, like up and standing like, hey, let's play tennis. It takes you from delta wave sleep, deep sleep, into alpha beta, right? It just takes you up into a lighter level of sleep. So you've been, quote unquote, sleeping for 6, 8, 9 hours, and you don't wake up rested. If you're sleeping that long and you're not waking up feeling rested, you have poor oxygen transport. You need to get your red blood cell count and your hemoglobin checked. And it's likely because your hormones are off.
I go to bed at about 11 o'clock, maybe 12 sometimes. I wake up at anywhere between 4 to 6. So I'll get anywhere from 5 to 6 hours of sleep, and I feel like a champ.
Okay, so you're either on testosterone therapy or you have optimal levels of the hormone testosterone. No question. One of the two.
Or both.
Or both.
but that's been my whole life.
Because then you've had adequate hormone levels your whole life. See, most people when they get a hormone test done, especially men, they want to be on testosterone for the muscles and for the erectile function and for the libido. But the truth is, the primary role of testosterone in men and women is not male characteristics. The primary role of testosterone is to put pressure on the bone marrow to create new red blood cells. So if you're low in testosterone, you're likely low on red blood cells and hemoglobin, which means you transport oxygen very poorly. That's why when people start taking hormone therapy, they feel better, because it's really what they're feeling is an increased level of oxygen transport.
Well, when I was a child, I slept forever. Mm-hmm. So I thought that your testosterone was higher as a teenager.
It is.
So when my testosterone was that high, I would sleep for like 10 hours.
Yeah, it's not abnormal at all for teenagers to sleep that long. In fact, I think the
higher the testosterone, the less sleep.
The higher the testosterone, the better the sleep, not the less sleep. So during that time when you're growing, regenerating, repairing, detoxifying, eliminating waste, that time of your life is when you need the most sleep. It's funny because younger kids go to school later and older kids go to school earlier. When our kids were going to school, they started at 9 o'clock in the morning when they were in 6th grade. By the time they were in high school, they had to leave the house at 6:30 in the morning. It should be the opposite, right? Teenagers need more sleep. They're growing, right? Their bones are growing, their brain's growing, they're metabolizing, their muscles are getting bigger. And that's because what? The hormones are starting to flood their system. They actually need more sleep, not less.
So if somebody's out there entrepreneurial, they're burning the candle at both ends. They feel like shit, but they know they got to power through. What would you tell them?
See, nobody should be powering through anything. If you have to quote unquote power through, that means that your physiology is not on your team, right? You want to put your physiology on your team. Most of us have the physiology, our biome is like an anchor off our stern. You want to roll that thing up and put it on the boat, so you can cruise. You want to have your physiology on your team. So if you have a roadmap for your business and your balance sheet and your income statement, your P&L, and you're running your marketing and you're looking at all your metrics for social media, you need to apply that same level of attention to your blood, right? Because it's more important than all of those things. And most of us right now can't say what their hormone levels are. What's going on with my triglycerides, my cholesterol? What's my PSA? What kind of inflammation do I have in my body? Most of us don't know that. And we don't even put the same level of attention into our body that we do our business's balance sheet.
But we want to. We need to.
You absolutely need to. I mean, you want to accelerate the growth of your business. You want to change your frequency. You want to emote a frequency of success and attract, the things in your life that you're envisioning, that you're trying to manifest. You got to improve your physiology.
Where's your brick and mortar? You have brick and mortars?
We have brick and mortars, but 70% of our patients have never stepped foot in one of our clinics. I mean, Grant and I are about to put them all over the country. We expect to have close to 1,000 locations in 36 months. But that's...
You're going to need a training system.
Trust me, I know. I know some people that have a training system.
That's right. So if someone's listening to this and they want to get their blood work done, they want to get the swab, do they come to you? Or?
Send me a message on Instagram. My staff will reach back out to them. They'll send them a new patient link, and we'll overnight the swab right to their house. They can cheek swab themselves and put it back in the envelope.
And then within a couple of days, they're what, dialed in?
The results come back, and we get them on the phone. We tell them exactly what nutrients they're deficient in. So they're no longer supplementing just for the sake of supplementing, right? They're supplementing for an actual deficiency. And if you've never supplemented for a real deficiency in your body, you don't know how good supplements can make you feel. Most of us just have a cabinet full of supplements because we read an article in Men's Health, or saw a buddy said, man, it takes all palmetto, it makes you feel great. Or
I just want to look better, stay younger.
It's easy.
So anything that has to do with that, give it to me.
Yeah, getting it right now.
Look better, stay younger. Mm-hmm. Look better, stay younger. I already feel great. That's the thing. Uh-huh. I'm lucky. Like, guys I grew up with, they were buff in school. I wasn't really buff in school. I didn't look bad, but I didn't look buff. Why? Because they were at the gym all the time, and I wasn't. Well, now they're walking around like old men with, one of them says they have fibromyalgia. I'm like, I think that's a girl's disease, isn't it?
It's just a nonsense disease.
Yeah, but that's a girl's disease, isn't it?
It's not necessarily a girl's disease. I just don't think that it exists. It's a cop-out when they don't know what's wrong with you.
Well, that's what
like
they say he has it, and I looked it up, and I'm like, basically women have fibromyalgia more than anybody.
Yes.
But to me, it's like this constant pain, and I attest that to where they beat up their bodies their whole life. I didn't. I took a nice smooth, like I worked out a little bit. I listened to my body. When my muscles were sore, I stopped going to the gym. Why? Well, my muscles were sore.
Right.
Like, and to me, the body's pretty intelligent. I think soreness was probably its way of saying, hey, slow down, champ. Mm-hmm. So I slowed down. They didn't. They said, oh, dude, you're a puss. You got to power through that. And a lot of people do. They wear the wraps. You see the guys at the gym with the wraps.
Yep.
Well, I didn't do all that. And now I have no pain.
Yep.
I have no joint issues.
Yep.
I don't get up and be like,
well, lifting heavy weights is a recipe for longevity. I always say that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And we age faster the more aggressively we seek comfort. We always tell Grandma, don't go outside, it's too cold. Don't go outside, it's too hot, Grandma. Just lay down and relax. Just rest. You eat at the first pang of hunger. We weren't meant to have a cabinet full of crackers, 3 feet off of our elbow, 24 hours a day. Most of us are eating ourselves to death. The worst advice ever given in the history of mankind was to eat small meals more often. That's horrible for you.
What's the best advice?
To spend a minimum 12 hours eating and 12 hours fasted. Our body only repairs, regenerates, detoxifies, and eliminates waste when we're not digesting. You see, we like to think that our brain and our bodies are very, very sophisticated. It's not. It's very primal. It cares about survival. It doesn't care about your skin, doesn't care how pretty you are. It cares about survival. And so digestion, evolutionarily, equated survival. Because if I can eat, I'm going to live. So it takes a very high priority in the body. As soon as you put food in, everything else stops. So if you're eliminating waste, you stop. Repairing, you stop. Detoxifying, regenerating. Those processes come to a halt. Your body focuses on digestion, and only when it's done digesting does it go back to doing those processes. You want mental clarity to go through the roof, and you want boundless energy, start learning how to intermittent fast. Take a 12-hour break from eating. Eat in a 12-hour window.
When you say eat, what's included in that?
Well, you can take in a high amount of calories in a short period of time.
But does it have to be solid food, or can it be liquid? That's eating.
Yeah, liquid's eating too, but just nothing out of a wrapper. Whole foods.
So when you say fast, though, no food, no liquid, no
food,
water.
No food, just water.
So doesn't everyone do that when they go to sleep at night?
Everyone does it when they go to sleep at night, but then they wake up at 6:30 in the morning, and they have coffee and a little bit of breakfast, and then they have coffee and a little bit of breakfast, and then they eat something before lunch, and then they eat at lunch, and then they eat a snack afterwards, and then they eat dinner late, and then they snack right before they go to bed. That's horrible. You're eating for 18 hours, 12, 16, 18 straight hours you're eating, which means your body's not doing any waste elimination.
What does it do to your blood?
Thickens your blood and fills your blood full of things that your body's got to get rid of. Your liver's working overtime, even if you eat a clean diet.
Based on my blood, does my liver look functional?
Your liver looks great. I can tell you right now, your cholesterol and your triglycerides are going to be excellent. See, cholesterol is another one of those massively misunderstood compounds in the human body, right? Cholesterol is not a fuel source. We can't use it for fuel. It's a building block.
Oh, I taste like toes or something.
Toes?
I'm joking.
I don't need a lot of toes. So. Did you put any toe in that IV? Yeah, sometimes
Just
we
a
put
little
a
toe?
little toe. Yeah, little toe.
It was the big toe.
Yeah,
Um,
it helps.
so
your
what
flapper.
about like fatigue and muscle soreness and like,
Yes, fatigue and muscle soreness is poor waste elimination, low levels of oxygen. So in the human body, we have two choices inside of our cell. Okay, we have a little powerhouse, little motor in every cell. Most of us have heard of it. It's called the mitochondria. And this is really what powers a human being, right? The more efficient this little organelle is, the healthier we are, the less sore we get, the faster we recover, the better our cognitive function, the deeper our sleep, the greater our libido. So this little mitochondria has a cool little motor in it that's spinning and spinning and spinning around, called the Krebs cycle. Every time this motor makes one turn, it has two choices. It can either make 2 units of energy, or it can make 32 units of energy. It's either 16 times more efficient or 16 times less efficient. There's no in between, right? It's like a car that either has a 100 horsepower engine or a 1600 horsepower engine. So we want the 1600 horsepower engine. And the difference between whether it makes 2 or 32 is the presence of oxygen. It's anaerobic versus aerobic respiration. We all know it because we felt our muscles burn. When our muscles burn, we're in anaerobic respiration, which means we're producing lactic acid. When our muscles don't burn, we're in aerobic respiration, which means we're producing carbon dioxide. So the point is, if I can transport more oxygen, I can raise the blood oxygen content, I can not only recover from exercise better, but these mitochondria, instead of making 2 units of energy every time that motor turns, they're making 32 units of energy. You give that much extra power to the cell, imagine how much more waste elimination and repair and detoxification and regeneration. Imagine how much more a cell could do with 16 times the power of not having that. Sitting is the new smoking. It's the greatest mortality factor.
like sedentary?
Sedentary lifestyle is the greatest mortality factor known to mankind right now. In fact, when I was doing mortality predictions, one of the things I would look at is your ambulatory profile, which is how well you ambulate, how well you move. Are you moving a lot? Most of us have a lot of what's called static stress. We sit and we're staring at this thing and it brings stress into our life, but we're not encountering stress in a physical environment. If you're fighting a tiger or you're running from a snake or you're trying to kill a cheetah or a hyena, the stress that you're experiencing, you're experiencing stress while you're breathing, while your muscles are working, and that stress is instantly gone from your body. When you stress in a static environment, the stress stays.
It's kind of like a cold plunge.
Cold plunge is excellent for you. That's one of the greatest biohacks, of the recent decade, is getting in cold water. You want to strip fat off your body, get in cold water.
Really?
Oh my God! Think of what a calorie is. Do you know what the definition
Heat
of a
unit.
calorie is? It's a measure of heat. Exactly. It's the amount of heat that takes to raise 1 cubic centimeter of water 1 degree centigrade. So a calorie is a measure of heat. So if heat is leaving your body, guess what's leaving your body?
Weight?
Calories and weight. Yes. So how do we get heat to leave our body? We get in cold water. Water is 29 times more thermogenic than air, meaning it removes heat at 29 times the rate of air.
So what temperature should the water be?
I'd say you start in the high 50s because, people go into cold plunging and they quit because they try to go too cold too fast, right? I put 150 pounds of ice in a bathtub.
What about just turning the water from warm to cold?
Yeah, every single one of us can do that.
As long as you do one of the things that you do.
Yeah, you just breathe. Take a deep breath, and then while you're letting that air out, step into that cold stream of water, and then just deal with it for 3 minutes. It'll take you 30 seconds to acclimate. In the next 2.5 minutes, boy, you'll get out of there. Your mood will be so elevated. Bolsters your immune system, reduces inflammation, does all kinds of things for you. And it starts to spark that transformation of fat from what's called white fat to brown fat, which is the kind of fat that can turn into energy.
My problem is when I turn it cold, it's not that cold.
Yeah, it's hard to, if you're used to cold baths, cold showers are nothing. I took a cold shower this morning.
And it's not even that cold. Like we're in Vegas, like, dude, it's hard to get cold water here.
Right. But you can get ice. I have a commercial ice machine.
That's work. Right. That's effort. See, I try to avoid all that shit.
Why?
What do you mean?
Why avoid that? It's so good for you.
Because it's inconvenient. That's why they call it inconvenient. I don't like shit that's
aging
inconvenient.
is the aggressive
a lot of
pursuit
these
of
success gurus out there in the world will tell you, to get yourself uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I agree with it. Like Andy Frisella, 75 Hard.
Mm-hmm.
his whole program is not necessarily weight loss. It's to get you out of your comfort zone,
Right.
so you can understand that your mental bitch voice can be controlled.
Yes.
But I already know that, so I don't ever have to do it. So again, to me, like, I already know that lesson, so I don't have to be uncomfortable.
Well,
I like to be comfortable. I like ranch dressing.
Okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with ranch dressing per se, but
Well, if you want to get rid
body,
of this, you need ranch dressing be eliminated. You need to eat fucking lettuce with just lemon juice on it or some bullshit. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, if that's what you got to do, then I don't care. I'll take a little love handle.
Right.
Like, who wants to get that uncomfortable?
It's not that uncomfortable.
Going to get 150-pound bags of fucking ice. What do you got?
I'm a little crazy about it.
Freezers.
You don't have to do that. No, I have a commercial ice machine in my laundry room.
Yeah, see, commercial ice machines. I got to go get one of those. It's like, you really got to want that shit to get that uncomfortable.
And then you just feel great, and you got incredible waking energy. And
why don't you just install a cold dip? Because you know some of those spas where you see them and they're like 42 degrees.
Yeah, there's one called Plunge. Is great. It keeps constant cold water, but they're like $4,500.
Yeah, but that'd save you. How much are you paying for ice every day?
If the woman 3 feet to my right would let me have one in our condo, and we can barely walk around the place with all the biohacking stuff I have, but I want to throw out our grill and put in a cold plunge, but that's just me. So maybe we're getting permission for it right now.
Well, if you guys move out of wherever you live, Naples or something?
We split time between Naples and the Aventura area, North Miami.
Yeah, see, so like get out of there and you'll find some real estate that doesn't cost so much. And
you don't get a lot for your money there, that's for sure.
And it's small. Then you can put in cold plunges and shit.
Yeah, but I just take the ice out of the ice machine and throw it in the bathtub.
I'm going to try that. You would say that the benefit of that is major.
No question. The 3 things you got to do every day. 1, 2, and 3. You have to breathe for 8 minutes. I recommend that you do a Wim Hof style of breathing for 8 minutes. It takes 8 minutes.
Which is what?
Just taking a deep breath and letting it out. And doing that 30 times. And at the end of your round of 30 breaths, you hold. After you exhale, you hold your breath as long as you can. And then when you can't hold your breath anymore, you take in a long, deep breath. You hold that breath as long as you can, and you start again. 3 rounds of 30 breaths with a breath hold in between. Just that will add 7 years to your life.
Wow.
It is impossible to be in a bad mood after you do 3 rounds of 30 breaths. And if you study Wim Hof, he's also known as the Iceman. I mean, they packed this guy in ice up to his neck for 2 hours, and his fingertips didn't even change temperature because he's the one that really kind of put breath work on the map. He showed that we could change the oxygen tension in our tissues. And if we know that the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease, then we start with breath work in the morning. Your body will crave that breath work like a rat to cheese.
It's funny because sometimes I'll be watching a movie and I'll catch myself holding my breath. Like I'll just go. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but
it's not good.
I will hold my breath, and I don't know why that is. And I can hold my breath for probably a minute and a half, which like underwater, always been able to do that. But what's crazy is when I forget how old I was. I didn't join. I went and I entered this contest with some long distance runners. And I started running, and I got into a rhythm where my breath work was just like, I mean, there was a cadence to it. It was like a rhythm, and I freaking crushed. And I don't know why I never ran out of breath. I just could keep running and running and running. And I think it was because I had this breath cadence down.
Yeah.
Where do you study Wim Hof?
You can Google him. It's very easy. You can follow my Instagram. I teach people how to breathe on there all the time. I don't sell anything on Instagram. I just teach.
You drop shit.
So I just
nuggets?
drop knowledge bombs.
Health
knowledge. That's it. But if you breathe for 8 minutes, then you apply physical stress. I prefer weight-bearing exercise. Weight-bearing exercise in nearly every clinical study known to mankind crushes cardiovascular exercise in the same time frame.
Lift weights.
Breathe, lift weights, and then apply a thermal stress. Either get hot or get cold. Get in a sauna or get in a cold shower or cold plunge.
Every day.
5
days a week, every day.
Every day. Cold shower every day. It's not hard.
Can you take a warm shower, then a cold shower?
Yes, you can take a warm shower, and then you can turn it cold, step out, and then just let that cold water hit you. Because, see, what you're doing is you're not only putting oxygen into the blood, right, and then you're applying a physical stress.
Why are you putting oxygen? Because you're going so much? Because when you get cold, that's what you feel like.
Yeah, and so when you first start cold when you first start getting into cold water, I tell people to box breathe, which is a 4-second inhale, a 4-second hold, 4-second exhale, and a 4-second hold. It's like a square, right? So you do that box breathing, and you'll get right through that initial shock of the cold. After 30 seconds, it'll start to feel good. And I promise you, you do that for 7 days, you will crave it every day. Your body will crave it like we crave a cup of Starbucks.
I'm going to start doing it.
Yeah. Do those 3 things.
Let's see you get me ripped.
Oh, I can get you ripped.
Like ripped, shredded.
I can turn
down to the abs.
Physiological superhuman. Once we dial your blood work in, you're not. Well,
you got the blood work, you got the swab. Yeah. And folks, if you're listening, you want the blood work and the swab, just DM him. Yep. Hit him up in the DM, tell him you're from the bomb squad.
I'm glad that you told me that, so someone didn't text me and say they were from the bomb squad and I delete them.
Yeah, bomb squad. Bomb squad. That's who's listening.
The bomb squad. Awesome.
You know, and they number one, I got all kinds of people following me, so
that's great.
But they do react. I got a loyal fan base that like engages. They buy books if you have them. They freaking do shit. They reach out. They follow you. You'll get followers.
Great.
And you might get some shit talkers too, because guess what? I got a bunch of
talkers.
health people following me. They'll be like, this guy's full of shit. And,
listen, I love
polyunsaturated hydrocarbons don't float the medulla. That was me, folks. That wasn't him. But you'll get a lot of action off this.
I love it.
The number one thing that you offer that they should do is the swab.
Cheek swab, I think it's just the most important single test because you do it once in your lifetime.
And then what, though?
And then you forever know what supplement you need.
So then you'd tell them, okay, here's the results, and that'll tell them, hey, you need A, D, and...
You need B complex, you need hydroxycobalamin, you need L-methionine, you need zinc, magnesium.
And if someone goes and gets all that...
Then they're going to feel what a real baseline sense of normalcy really feels like.
And if they're anxious, they'll quit being anxious. And
absence of anxiety.
Depressed, they'll quit being depressed.
All of those conditions are just the absence of raw materials. The absence of dopamine is the presence of addiction. But we never treat the deficit in dopamine. And that's why addiction shifts. We rarely cure addiction. It actually just shifts. If you talk to somebody who's an alcoholic and has been sober for, let's say, 25 years, you say, when was the last time you thought about having a drink? They'll say,
how long does that take? Yeah.
Yeah, straighten your arm, it'll go faster. You're dripping at a good rate.
You guys are going slow row.
Yeah. But you put raw materials in, you have the body start to produce that neurotransmitter, and addiction eviscerates. If you got a child right now, I give the parents a little tip. If you got a kid right now that can play video games for more than 5 or 6 hours straight, that's a future addict.
That's me.
You need to get a hold of that kid.
I could do
right
that.
Now, get the cheek swab and get that kid taking methylated vitamins.
How long until my results come back?
5 days.
Folks, get as soon as you hear this episode, get your cheek swabbed, get your results, get your shit in order, especially if you want to be, number one, live a long time. Mm-hmm. I hear there's kids alive today that'll live to 800 years old. People are like, come on, dude. Like with the medicine and the AI and I've heard
140, 160. Absolutely. The people alive today.
No, you Google this. You'll read the article I read. It basically said there are people alive right now that will live to 800 years old with the medical advancements we're seeing. Stem cells, freaking
unbelievable.
Artificial intelligence. They, printing hearts. You can print a heart now.
Yeah, I mean they're producing meat. Yeah, they're producing animal-less meat. They're basically taking stem cells from a cow and culturing in a laboratory, culturing meat and actually using stem cells to command an organ to grow meat, and it's the purest meat on the planet. It's obviously, grass-fed. It's hydrated. It's infused, and there's no animal connected to it. Nobody's being slaughtered. Nobody's in pain. Nobody's being tortured or corralled. It's animal-less meat.
And there's cloning.
There's cloning.
Where they literally can clone people.
Yes, and that's kind of scary. I mean, that level of genetics is pretty scary. CRISPR technology and that kind of technology.
To me, it's not really scary. To me, it's like exciting. Like, I'd love to be able to clone me. I'd love 50 of me as long as they work for me. Like the original should be the one in charge.
Well, would Brad Lee work for Brad Lee?
Oh, fuck yeah, dude.
I don't know.
Brad Lee would love Brad Lee. Brad Lee would love Brad Lee. Brad Lee would show up fucking excited to say, reporting for duty, sir. Why?
Oh.
Because now we know we're all going crazy.
I think Bradley would want to take over Bradley's business so that he could be Bradley.
And Bradley would let him.
So Bradley could whip Bradley's ass.
In a heartbeat. That's why I want 100 of them, because I'd literally staff this whole place with Bradleys, and I'd go fishing. I'd fuck right off and know full well. Again, if I can maintain them, like contain them,
right,
I'll be fine.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't think you can contain.
I don't have to motivate them. I just have to contain them. I'll come in here and something will be fucked up, but I'll be Richard and shit.
You won't have your office anymore,
folks. If you guys liked what Gary had to say, go follow him. If you want to get your blood or your swab done, go follow him. These are the NFL athletes with the aches and the pains that he treats, and they go away. So if you have aches and pains, you just want to be young forever, like some of these celebrities. You just want to look and feel like Brad Lee, because I feel amazing. Mm-hmm. And, I got a lot of energy, but maybe that's, I don't know. Anyway, folks, go follow him. Hit him up if you guys want it. On his DM, he doesn't have a website for you or any kind of thing. And share this out in case it wasn't for you. And until next time, keep it real.
Dropping bombs with the real Bradley. Subscribe now.